Okay, welcome to my talk about using Chocolatey in offline deployments. First of all, thank you very much to our sponsors. Without them, this conference here would not be possible, and without Chocolatey in special, my talk wouldn't be possible. So, I'm Emrys. I'm a rollout manager and DevOps engineer at Medavus. I've been working IT for the past 18 years, and I fell in love with PowerShell about 14 years ago. So what we're going to talk about, today we're going to talk about what is Chocolatey, how we can install Chocolatey Package Manager on an offline machine, offline target. We're going to look how to create a simple package for offline deployments, create and look at a more complex example, and then we're going to add parameter validation to our package and going to look in the ways we can debug packages on our target machines. So what's Chocolatey? Well, Chocolatey is just a package manager for Windows, like Winget or Scoop, or apt-get under Linux. Chocolatey can deploy anything. So it doesn't matter if it's an exe, an MSI, a zip file, PowerShell modules, scripts, whatever you want. If you can put in a zip file, you can deploy it with Chocolatey. Chocolatey can also configure everything. So basically, Chocolatey uses PowerShell scripts to deploy and install and configure all your deployments. So if you can do it with PowerShell, you can do it with Chocolatey. It works on any Windows machine, so it doesn't matter starting off with 2012, going up to the newest versions of Windows, and it doesn't matter if it's a container, if it's a core version of Windows Server, or the full version, and the same goes for Windows clients. So as long as you got Windows 8, it will work. It will probably work on older versions of Windows, but they're not supported anyway. So, and that's all I've got on slides. We can go ahead into the demo. So our first task is we have to get Chocolatey on our machine. So we've got no internet connectivity. So we've got basically two options. First, and the most simplest option is just go to chocolatey.org, go to the community repository, go and find a package, and you will see one of the first packages which comes up is Chocolatey. So basically, we can go to the community repository, which is just a NuGet repository, and then we can scroll down, and down at the bottom left, for each package, we can download the package. So we can just download it, and then we got our Chocolatey package. But as I said, Chocolatey is just a NuGet repository, so we can just register this NuGet repository as a package source. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say name Chocolatey, the location of the community repository, the provider name, NuGet, and we're going to trust it. So we can just register our package source. When we've got that, we'll just, for this example, we will create a folder called Choco. And then we'll just go into the repository, look for the Chocolatey package, and save it. So this will go out to the repository, download the package, so exactly the same thing we did on the website. And then we can just find the package in our folder. And as a NuGet package is basically just a zip file with an XML with metadata, we can just expand the archive. So we got the folder. Let's look at it. So we got the NuGet package and we got the expanded archive. So what we can do is just we can burn it on a good old CD-ROM, walk over to our offline target or whatever, and just copy it onto our target machine. So we'll just CD into desktop, and then we'll just look for the Chocolatey package. And in the Chocolatey package, there's a tools folder, and in that tools folder, there's a script called Chocolatey install PS1. We can execute this Chocolatey PS1, Chocolatey install PS1, and this will install Chocolatey on any machine. So that's it, really quick. And now if we just check it, we've got the Chocolatey binary on our offline machine. So it's super simple. I just have to transport my files, execute the script, and we've got the package manager running on our target machine. So that's great. Now we've got Chocolatey on the machine. Now we want to deploy a package. So the first thing is, if you're installing a package in a production environment, it's it's always better to create your own packages. The community repository is great, but you never know who built it, and it's always good to be safe, build your own packages, and then you know what you get. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create our first package. So basically, I'm on my developer machine, and I can go choco new 7-zip. So we're going to create a package for 7-zip, keep it simple. And basically, this Chocolatey new is just a template for a package. This will create a folder called 7-zip, and in this folder, there's multiple files. Some are relevant for us, some aren't. So we got a README, we got a to-do.txt, so these are just files provided by Chocolatey to give you information on how to create a package. These are not necessary for the deployment. More interesting and more important is the NuSpec file. So this is the file with the metadata you have to provide to create a Chocolatey package and a NuGet package for that. So as you can see, it's an XML file. There are a lot of comments. So Chocolatey provide in their template tons of comments. You can just read through the comments, and they will tell you what information you have to provide to create the package. So in this example, the ID 7-zip, it already filled that out for us. And here we've got the version. So in the case of 7-zip, we probably want the version 22.1. We will need maybe a project URL. So we can go https or 7zip.org. And then we can just go through all the packages and just fill in what we need. And in the 7-zip folder, you will find a tools folder. And this is a very important folder because everything in this folder will get packaged in your Chocolatey package. So everything in this folder will get packaged and you can transport to your offline machine. So this is where you would put your binaries, your EXEs, your models, everything. We've also got here verification text and license text. These are not relevant for us in our example, but if you want to publish your own packages to the Chocolatey gallery, then you will have to fill these out. But as we own just internal, it doesn't matter. More important are these 3 PowerShell scripts: Chocolatey install, Chocolatey before modify, and Chocolatey uninstall. So these are the scripts that get executed when you install a Chocolatey package, upgrade a Chocolatey package, or uninstall a Chocolatey package. So in Chocolatey install, you put everything for your installation. So the installation of the binaries, your zip files, copying, unzipping, configuration, everything you need. Chocolatey before modify, that script gets called when you either execute Chocolatey uninstall or Chocolatey upgrade. So basically what this is, you put your stuff in that file, which always has to run before an upgrade or uninstallation. So that could be, for example, stopping a service, checking that it's stopped, and then Chocolatey uninstall, as the name says it, gets executed when you install a package. So we're not going to go through the process of creating everything manually now, but if you go into the scripts, you will see tons of comments. Chocolatey provides you tons of information to get started. So I've already pre-created a Chocolatey package or template package for 7-zip. So I've got our NuSpec file. I filled out all the data I needed that is necessary. And in the tools folder, I've got my 7-zip exe. So that's my binary. That's what I want to transport to my machine. And that's what I want to install. And I've got a Chocolatey install script. So in this Chocolatey install script, so basically all Chocolatey install scripts start with the first 2 lines. You set the error action preference to stop. So should anything go wrong in your deployment, Chocolatey will stop the execution and fail. The next file is, where's my tools folder? So basically, I'm just passing the tools folder into my variable so I can access it. In line 4, I'm just looking for the exe in my tools folder so I can access it and deploy it. And then I want to install my package. So Chocolatey provides a ton of functions which will help you with your deployment, installation of software, setting environment variables, and so on and so on. So in this case, we're using the install Chocolatey install package. So what this package is, what this function does is you provide a package and some data, and it will install it for you and take off all the heavy lifting. So what we have to do here is provide the package name, the file type, which is exe, could be an MSI. So the command knows if you should execute MSI exec or the exe directly. Then, of course, it needs a file, which we've already got in our variable, and then the silent arguments. So this is where you would put all your silent arguments, for example, /s, /install dir, /log, or whatever you need. And the next one, valid exit codes, is also an important one, is we have to tell Chocolatey what we accept as a valid exit code. When do we think that something is installed correctly? So in case of a 7-zip installed exe, it's just a 0. If you got, for example, an MSI, you would like to have an exit code 3010, which basically means installation successful, reboot needed. So when we created this package, we can then just cd into our folder. And then we can just go choco pack, and it will look for the new spec file in this folder. It will take everything in the in the tools folder, zip it, and create a new package. So this file was created. We got our new 7-zip package. So and deploying to the offline machine is super simple. We just take this package, go over to our offline machine, which has got no internet connectivity. We just copy it on the machine, and then we can just say choco install 7-zip. So if I would leave it like that, it would try to go to the community repository or the configured repository, download it, install it. But we've got the package locally, and we've got no internet connection. So what we can do is we can add the source parameter. So we are telling Chocolatey in which folder to look for the package. So in this case, it's a desktop folder. And if I would have multiple versions of 7-zip in my folder, it would automatically take the newest version and install that for us. So I'm going to add the Y parameter. So we're just accepting that it's going to run the script. So now it's performing the installation. Won't take a second. 7-zip installed successfully. Really cool. So let's prove it. We got our 7-zip package manager running on the machine. So you might have seen there was no Chocolatey uninstall script in my tools folder. It's because I don't need it. Because if I'm just installing a simple MSI or setup exe, Chocolatey has got this really cool feature called auto uninstall. So basically, during installation, it will remember what was installed. And when I call Chocolatey uninstall, it will try to figure out what was installed and execute the uninstall string by itself. So uninstall 7-zip. So even though I haven't provided an uninstall script, it will just work. And now we've installed it. Let's just prove it quickly. There, no 7-zip installed. So that's great. So it's a really simple way to create packages, make sure I can test the deployment, and I can be very confident that if I throw it onto any machine, it will work. And that is great. So, but real life is often not as simple as just installing a simple setup or MSI. We often have complex deployments. For example, I've got this web application as an example. So this web application is a Java web application, so it consists of a jar file. I've got a Windows service wrapper, so I can run this web application as a Windows service. I need a Java framework, and I need a custom PowerShell module to configure my whole complex deployment. So that's not one setup, it's 4 different ones. And that's something we can do with Chocolatey because it uses the power of PowerShell. So I've got this example here. Let me show you. Yeah, there we are. So this is our config demo app, which we want to install. I've got my new spec file defining what version and all the metadata. And then if we look in our tools folder, we've got a lot more going on. So one, we've got a zip file. In the zip file, there's a jar file from the web application and the Java service wrapper for Windows. I've got Amazon Corretto Java framework as another package. And I've got a modules folder. And in this modules, I've got this custom PowerShell module, which will configure all my application. And then, of course, I've got my uninstall, install, and before modify scripts as well. So I just want to go through the script quickly. We're not going to go into detail because that's not the point. I just want to show you what you can do. So basically, as I said, we start off with the same 2 lines every time. Error action preference and my tools folder. I want to define that. The next, I need some data. I need some information. What is my application called? Where's my default installation path? And at which port should this application run? And then I've got 2 variables with application configurations. This is a demo, PSConf location, and are we having fun? As I can see, we're all having fun, I hope. Okay, and now the installation begins. So what I'm doing, I'm setting the installation path. Then I'm taking my Java zip file, and then I'm just getting my zip file, and then I'm using one of the Chocolatey functions Chocolatey provides to unzip this function. We are currently running under 5.7, so if you would use the expand archive, that would work as well. It's just slower because Chocolatey uses 7-zip in the background, which is way more quicker. After we've got our Java deployed, we'll just set an environment variable with a Java home path so we can find our Java during our deployment. Next, we will unzip our jar file and our service wrapper in a folder. Next thing is we want to take our custom configuration module, which we created for this application, and we would just want to import it as a PowerShell module. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the module path, adding it to my PS module path for this current session, and then I'm importing the module so I can access all my custom functions during deployment time. Then I do some character replacement, finding my Java home path, all the configuration for my Java Windows service wrapper, and then I can set different properties with a function out of my custom module. So this is not a standard function. This is one I'm providing for this deployment. I can execute the service, which will install the service, and I do more application configuration depending on my necessities. And at the end of this installation, I would of course start my service, so my web application will be running. So now, of course, we want to package this. Config demo app. So once again, it's the same process. We just go choco pack. It will take everything, package everything into our package, everything we need. So this package is a bit bigger. So the package will be 250 MBs, but it could be a gig or 2 gigs, whatever you want to pack, just put it in there. So to save time, I've got my demo package already on my target machine, and it's exactly the same process. So I go choco install config demo app. My installation source, it once again is my current folder, and I'm just going to confirm all the do you really want to install prompts. So this will take a bit longer because it's a bigger package. There's a lot more going on. So as I said, we'll start off unpacking Java, setting the path variable, importing the module, unpacking the jar files, installing the service, and it should just run through fine. Now it's starting the web application in the background. And now I can go localhost port 81 because that was our default installation port. And we've got a Java web application running. So as you can see, I've got My config file, my installation path is set, and my variable set. So that's great. So it's a very simple process to deploy something complex. So you can take off the heavy lifting for your colleagues, give them a working package, and they can deploy it. But this is a bit static. So in the script, there's just all my configuration set statically. What I want to do is I want to give my users or my colleagues the option to change configuration. And Chocolatey can do that because Chocolatey provides a simple feature. I'll just copy that into my script. So what this is Chocolatey provides a parameter called minus params. And then you can just add a string /install dir equals the actual path / are we having fun equals value and so on. And in the package, you can access all of this through a function called getPackageParameters. So what this will do, it will take the string, it will map it into a hash table, and then you can access all these configuration values parameters in this hash table. So what I'm doing is I'm setting a variable called pp, package parameters, that will receive the hash table, and then I'm just going through my parameters saying if I find a key called install dir, then set my variable install dir to the value of this parameter. So once again, when we got this, we can package it, and just copy it over to onto our machine. I just already got it on my machine. And so now we can just reinstall it. So I'm going to just do Chocolatey install. I've added the f parameter for force because we've already got it on our machine. So we're going to force the installation. And we're going to add a few parameters. So PSConf location is now Prague because we are in Prague. And we're going to add a port 80. And yes, I did mistype because I want to prove a point. So now we set off the installation. It will accept our parameters and just install. So it's not going to complain, you had a typo, it's just going to do it. So now it's just going to stop the service and reinstall it. And it's coming. So once again, it's installing the service. I should be ready in a second. So now I can update my website. This will take a second. And we should see that the PSConf location has changed. It accepted the parameter, but we're still running on a port 81. So we had my package didn't fail. We didn't have the option to tell our user, you're doing something wrong. So I think it's vital that we provide our users ways to help them. So what we want to do now is add package validation, parameter validation to make sure our users don't make mistakes or you don't make your mistakes yourself. So what we're going to do now is we're going to provide, where are we? Here we are. We're going to define a list of valid parameters. So this is just a list with parameters, what I'm going to accept. Debug, port, install dir, PSConf location. Are we having fun? And then I'm just going to iterate through my hash table and compare the keys the user provided with its params call and validate that against the list. And should the key not match, then I'm going to throw an error. The installation will get cancelled. The user will get the information you messed up in a nice way. And the installation will halt and the user has the possibility to correct himself. So yeah. So we'll just reinstall with the same parameters with the wrong port, with the wrong property. and we should be presented with an error.
Does your list support like wildcards or rejects?
Currently it doesn't. This is just a simple list, but you could add that. So now we saw it threw an error. So it's just telling the user prod is not an allowed parameter. These are the valid parameters. So now the user has the option to correct himself. He's had information input that there's something going wrong, and he can correct it. So as soon as this is gone through, we should be able to call our web application over port 80. And there we are. Great. So there's a simple way of adding value to the user, to our colleagues, and to ourselves, basically. So that's great. The thing is, we mess up. We can test our software as good as we can. It will always fail in some obscure scenario. So what can we do if we've got this package which works on our machine, works on our test deployments, but just fails on a customer's installation and we can't find out? So Chocolatey does provide parameters like -- verbose, and will give you print view verbose information of the installation, and it can be very helpful in most scenarios, but sometimes something just keeps failing and you just can't get around it. So what we can do is we can add interactive debugging to our package, so we can debug our package when it runs and fails on a customer machine. So what we can do here is we can say we've got an installation that keeps failing. Just let me put it in the right place. Yeah. Keeps failing and we don't know why. Then we say, okay, we'll add the parameter debug. And if I add the parameter debug, I will check for this parameter. And should the parameter debug be provided, I'm just going to say, get me my current run space I'm running in. Keep that in a variable and then print out, if you want to debug this script, enter PS host process, give him the current ID of the process, and tell him that he can then perform debug run space and give him the ID of the run space, and then we'll just start the debugger. And then you can debug your script. So what we can do here is get the right version. Here we got it. So as soon as that's copied over, we can call our installation again, which keeps failing. And we'll just add the parameter debug. So now the service gets stopped, the installation will kick in, it will find the parameter debug and should hopefully start the debugger, stop the installation process, and give us some information how to access this. And there we've got it. Debug was passed as a parameter, and information how to enter the debugger. So on this machine, I've got no VS Code, it's just any machine, so I'm using the ISE. I can just have a look at my process, because I got my process ID, get. So this is a process which is stopped and halting and running. So it's actually a Chocolatey process. It's not a PowerShell process. But we don't care, still works. So we can enter the host process, we're in the host process, and now we can enter the debugger with debug run space, because this is the ID, this is the run space where the debugger is waiting. So, and as you can see, this is our installation script. It's halted at exactly that point where we wanted it to halt. And now I can just go through like any other debugger. I can step over, I can step in, I can get the information on my variables, and now I can just go step through until I find my error, and then I can fix it. And if I just let it run again, it will just install because we have got no errors. So that's a great way of adding debug options to our packages, which your colleagues will be very, very happy to have. And yourself, of course. So, yes, a question.
I assume you have to run Elevated to debug that.
Yes, of course. The question was, do you have to run your ISE elevated to debug? Yes, your debug session has to be an elevated session. That's true. Yeah. But you have to be have elevated rights to execute the Chocolatey package in the first place, under most circumstances anyway. So let's recap what we did. We know what Chocolatey is. We know that it's a package manager for Windows. We installed Chocolatey on an offline machine, so we know how to get it to run. We created a simple package. I'll show you hopefully how easy it is to create your own packages for your own deployments. We looked at the options of complex deployments. So if you can imagine that you can deploy it, then you can deploy it. It does not matter. And we'd added parameter validation to our package, and we added the capabilities to debug our scripts on the target machine. So, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Do you know? Oh, sorry. Do you know if there's an offline, a way to offline, let's say, all of the packages authored by company X or something like that you could basically put into a development area that, let's say, other developers can just come and deploy from, as opposed to rebuilding them all and then just putting them in the folder structure?
So the question was if you can centrally have all your packages. Exactly. So Chocolatey is just works on NuGet packages. So we can just host company internally a NuGet package repository and just put everything in there. And then you just define this package repository as your default source in Chocolatey, and then we'll just go out to that repository. So in this example, it was thinking of offline machines with absolutely no connection to any repository.
Well, I'm thinking about like an air-gapped network where you could download it on one machine, clean it, scan it, then move it into a protected environment.
Exactly. You could. So the question was, or the assumption was, can we store the packages somewhere, get them scanned? Yes, totally. You can do that. You can shift it into your own repository and then run your own scans on that, and then shifting it into a different environment. That would work totally.
Regarding the parameter binding, the parameter calling itself, is there any way for default values to provide, for example? Because currently it's just a whole string.
So the question was, is there a way to provide default values for the parameters? Not that I know of. I would have to ask James over there from Chocolatey if he knows it. So the answer was, with the power of PowerShell, anything's possible.
Probably a wrapper or something like that.
You could probably build a wrapper around the Choco exe, maybe with Crescendo.
Sorry, to give a slightly less pithy answer. Yeah, you absolutely could. If you added to the RAM block that was displayed earlier, you could definitely provide default parameters.
Okay, any more questions? No, I think, thank you for your time.